welcome to my channel. My name is Francesca. If you're new here, welcome. If you are not new here, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about how I structure my weekly workouts and why. Because yes, we see workouts all the time, but maybe we're not understanding why they're doing it that way. So that's kind of what I wanted to explain in this video, is like what my current workout split is and why I'm structuring it the way that I structure it. And I am a personal trainer, so I feel like there is a lot of power and knowledge in understanding your workouts and understanding why you're doing what you're doing and understanding what phase you're in. That just gives you so much power when it comes to your fitness journey. I'm just going to take you through my split, my 5-day workout split. Later on in the video, I'm going to actually cue through the video. That way you can know what the movements are that I'm doing and then just understand maybe some cues that you might not necessarily think about when you are doing your workouts. When it comes to having a goal with your fitness journey, you need to have something that you're working towards, and you need to have like an overarching goal that's going to help you and remind you why you're doing the things that you're doing. Because I've seen this time and time again, like people want to see results in a month or 2 months or 3 months, and they're like, why am I not seeing results? Like, why is the scale going up, or why is the scale staying the same, or I'm not seeing any muscle definition, or literally anything. And it's like, how long has it been? It's been a month, it's been 2, 3. Like, you need to give yourself at least a year, in my opinion, to see the results that you want, which is 9 times out of 10, like a way bigger goal than 3 months can give you. So when I first started working out, I was 16 years old and I started to work out at the YMCA, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna look at Instagram videos and just figure it out. So that's how I lived my life, was through watching Instagram videos and stuff. I learned enough, but like being a personal trainer, you obviously learn way more about how the body moves, how it works, the anatomy, physiological things. Once you learn that, you understand how to structure a program and how to work out in a way that fits your goals. I like to be very intentional with my workouts, because if I'm not, they get super boring and I'm like, what the hell is this even for? So this is all part of like a big intentional progression, if you will. So the way that I'm looking at it is through periodization, which is basically just a smart way of organizing your training in phases. So each phase has a very specific job in what it's doing. Instead of trying to build muscle and improve your mobility and feel super athletic and lean out and all those things at the same time, I'm breaking it up into phases so that my body can actually adapt and have one main focus for that phase before moving on to the next one. So this is all really laid out in 3 different phases, and each phase is about 8 weeks long. So phase 1 is my strength base and my hip mobility phase. And then phase 2 is my shape and hypertrophy phase. Phase 3 is my leaning out and my athletic recomp phase. The reason that I like doing it this way is because it just makes more sense physiologically. Your body does respond way better when you're giving it a clear training focus instead of throwing everything at you at once. Phase 1 is not me trying to do everything. It's helping me build that foundation so that the next phases work way better for me. The goal is to get stronger and improve movement quality and your hip mobility. And when I'm doing this, the intention behind it is to feel strong and grounded and not super exhausted, or like I'm trying to get super sweaty and like burn myself out. So really this first phase is just me creating that base for myself and creating better positions for myself, better movement, more strength, better hip function and mobility, and then also better recovery overall. Now let's get into the workouts, and I'm going to guide you through them. So day 1 is going to be lower strength plus hips, and that's exactly what I want it to sound like. So I'm building strength, but I'm also making sure that my hips feel better, because I don't want to get stronger in a way that makes me feel tighter and more restricted. But I like to do some 90-90 hip switches, adding in some world's greatest stretch, some single leg glute bridges, body weight squats. And the point is to open up your hip rotation and get your glutes firing. So I like to start with my main lift as the hack squat, doing 4 sets of 5. I like this because it gives me a really clean lower body strength stimulus. So I can stay more upright, let my knees travel down, and then driving through my full foot and really load the quads and glutes without overthinking the setup. So for me, the cue is basically just staying grounded through the foot, right? You're going to control that lowering phase and then push the platform away from you. After that, we go into some Smith machine Romanian deadlifts. And then this is where I'm shifting more towards the posterior chain. And the RDL here is going to build your glutes, your hamstrings, and your overall hinge strength. So right here, you want to think hips back, keep your knees soft, your ribs down, and keeping the bar close to your body and keeping tension where you actually do want it, which is in your glutes and your hamstrings. Then after that, we go into some barbell reverse lunges. And I like these here because after the hack squat and the RDL, I want that single leg work in that workout as well. So step back far enough that you can drop straight down, keeping that front foot fully planted. You want to stay tall through the torso and then push through the front leg to come back up. Make sure you don't rush it. You let the front leg do like 80 to 90% of the work here. Then we move into some B stance hip thrust and cross hack squat supersetted. So on the B stance hip thrust, you're going to plant your front foot firmly down, keeping your ribs down, tuck slightly through your pelvis and drive through the heel so the glute finishes that rep. And then you pause at the top instead of just bouncing through it. And then with the cross hack squats, you're going to sit into one hip, keeping the working foot grounded, making sure that your heel is not coming up and your pressure is not going into your toes. And then you're letting the other leg stay long and using that inner thigh and glute to come back up. This is there because I want side to side movement in my training too, because if I only train like in a straight line, my hips start to feel way tighter. So I like to keep something in there that makes me move through a different range. And then we finish with some side lying V-ups. So right here, you want to stack your hips and keep your body in one straight line to start. And then you want to reach through both legs and keeping that bottom side slightly grounded. Think rib to hip here and then lower slowly back down, making sure that you hit both sides. So day 2 is my upper strength day. And I like this day because it feels really straightforward in a good way. The goal here is to build upper body strength and keep my shoulders and my upper back moving well. So I start with some banded pull apart, some banded standing rows in a hinge position with the band under my feet. And then I also did some scapular push-ups, which I did not record. So then my main lift is the seated shoulder press for 5 sets of 5. So I like using that as a strength anchor because it really lets me focus on pressing well without having to think much about balance as if I were to be like standing. So make sure that you sit tall, you keep your ribs stacked and keep your wrists over your elbows and lower the dumbbells with control. And then you press straight up. I want it to feel strong and clean, not like I'm just throwing the weight over my head. We move into some neutral grip pull downs. So pull the shoulders down first and drive your elbows towards your ribs, keeping your neck relaxed. And then you let your back do the work instead of yanking with your arms. And then we moved into some incline barbell bench press. So making sure that you plant your feet down, keep your shoulder blades set, and then you lower with control and then press back up without letting your shoulders roll forward. Then we go into some chest supported rows and dumbbell lateral raises supersetted. So the chest supported rows here is there because I want more upper back strength. Pulling your elbows back, pausing briefly, and then lowering the weight back down. On the lateral raises, keep that soft bend in your elbows, lift out to the sides without shrugging them, and then stop where your delts are still doing the work there. You want tension there the whole time. And then we finish with some seated bicep curls, just alternating them, making sure that you're not using your elbows to pull the weight up. You want to keep your elbows down by your rib cage at all times and really just using your biceps to pull that weight up. So day 3 is my full body movement and athletic primer day. And I really liked having this in the week because it breaks things up a little bit. It has that structure and strength in it. So obviously I did not film my warm up, but I start with my main lift with the trap bar deadlift. So 4 sets of 4, and I still want a real strength piece in this day, but I like using the trap bar here because it lets me train strength in a way that still feels athletic and clean. And then we move into some supersetting of alternating dumbbell snatches and half kneeling landmine press. So I like this combo because it gives me that power and control in that same session. So on the half kneeling landmine press, you want to stay tall through your torso, keeping your ribs down and press forward and up without leaning or twisting. And then with the dumbbell snatches, you're going to drive through your legs and your hips first, and then you let your arm guide the way up overhead. It should feel really very smooth and explosive, not like you're trying to like muscle up that dumbbell. And then what we go into after that is gorilla rows and dumbbell lateral lunges. So the gorilla rows give you more of the upper back work, but in a position where you still have to hold that good hinge and use your core to stay stable. So you want to make sure that you keep your hips back, your chest is strong, and row at the same time, and don't let that torso twist around and make sure you're not using your lower back. Then we superset that with the lateral lunges. So step out wide, sit into that hip and keeping your working foot planted, just like we're doing with the Cossack squats, pushing the floor away as you come back up. And then we finish with some farmer carries and then bent knee calf raises. So farmer carries are one of those movements that just tie a lot together. So you want to make sure that you are standing tall, keeping your ribs stacked over your pelvis, gripping the weights hard, working on that grip strength, and then walking under control, not letting the weights swing you around. And then on the bent knee calf raises, you move through that full range, pausing at the top and then lower with control instead of bouncing through it. If you want a little bit extra at the end, I like to do Stairmaster, a rower, incline treadmill as a finisher, but you still want this day to feel like it adds to the week and not like it drains you for the rest of the week. And then we move into day 4, which is the lower accessory glute and adductor day. This one feels different from day 1 because it's less about that big lower body strength. So I start with some 90-90 hip stretches, frog stretch rocks, expanded lateral walks, some internal and external hip rotations, some single leg glute bridges. Basically, this warm up is there to get your hips moving, waking up your glutes and getting into a better position before you start loading everything. You always want your lower body to feel open and steady, especially on a day where you're doing more like single leg work and more glute focused work. Moving into the main lift here is the barbell hip thrust. So 4 sets of 6. I like having that as the anchor because it lets me load the glutes hard without it feeling like a full body grind, if that makes sense. Set the upper back onto the bench, keeping your ribs down and driving through the feet, and finish the rep with the glutes instead of just throwing your hips up. And then we go into some heels elevated goblet squats with a B stance RDL. So the heels elevated goblet squat gives you more of that quad work while still letting you stay upright and moving through that good range. Keeping your heels planted on that wedge or that plate, letting your knees travel and stay controlled on the way down, bracing your core. Then on the B stance RDLs, you want to make sure that your back leg is kind of like in a kickstand position. Drive your hips back just like a normal RDL, making sure that you're putting that tension into that main working leg, which is going to be doing about 80 to 90% of that work. After that, we head into another superset of seated leg curls and cable abductions. Make sure that you're standing tall, keeping your pelvis steady and moving from the side glute instead of swinging your whole body around. And then you're going to superset that with a leg curl. So the leg curl gives you more of that direct hamstring work, which I like because I want the backside of my legs to obviously feel strong too, not just my glutes and my quads. So making sure that you're pulling your heels in, squeezing at the top, and then lowering that weight back up with control, making sure that your knees are locked in here and your back is supported. Last but not least is our day 5 upper accessory shoulder and arm focus. So I like ending the week with this one because it still feels very productive and it's not as mentally heavy as the main upper strength day is. Of course, I warm up, but I did not film it today. So the main strength lift is going to be lat based pull down for 4 sets of 6. So I like having a stronger pull as the anchor here because I still want this day to feel like it has something substantial in it. Then we go into some machine chest press. Make sure that you keep your feet grounded, okay? And you set your shoulders lower with control, and then you press back up without letting everything roll forward. Then we head into a single arm cable row. So staying tall, keeping your ribs stacked, rowing toward the side of your body, and don't let your torso twist open, and you're really using that lat and squeezing at the top of that rep. After that, we did some rear delt flies on the machine. So I also supersetted that with some front raises with the straight bar. So on the rear delt fly, making sure that you're opening through the back of the shoulders and you're keeping the movement smooth, making sure that you're not rushing the reps just because the weight is lighter. Then with the front raises, making sure that you still keep that soft bend in your elbows, lifting straight out in front of you, and then making sure that you're staying controlled the whole time. Then we finish with some rope hammer curls and rope tricep press downs. So on the hammer curl, making sure that you're keeping your elbows close, keeping your shoulders tight in, lowering with control instead of letting the weight drop. And then on the press downs, keeping your elbows pinned by your side, pressing all the way through and making the triceps actually finish the rep instead of just bouncing through it. That is the actual layout of phase 1. And the big picture is that like I'm not staying in this phase forever, right? This is the first 8 weeks. And then after this phase, I go into phase 2, which is my shape and hypertrophy phase. This is all really just about periodization, and it's not making the training complicated just because you want to get to your goals faster. If you have any questions or anything about this phase, let me know. Let me know if you liked this, if you want me to do more of this, and I hope that you learned a lot and that you feel empowered to either go to the gym or try out this split if that's something that you feel like aligns with your goals. And yeah, so bye.